Alright, YouTube. What's going on? It's your boy CJ, man. We back with another video. Yes, man. Today we react to that Comics Explain, bro. Absolute Poison Ivy is Nightmare Fuel. I did a reaction to this, but it messed up. And I know I'm behind on the Absolute Batman series, but bro, I just been recording other stuff because when I was trying to record this when it was messed up and it kept messing up, I just lost motivation to do it. So I'm gonna get back into what I just seen the Scarecrow one that came out. Yeah, bro, we finna get into it, bro. We finna react to both of them, both the Poison Ivy ones. I'm finna react to the second Poison Ivy one after this, and I'm finna get straight to that Scarecrow one, and then I'm finna go watch something else, though. But, man, yeah, man, I'm feeling good, man. I'm a little bit tired, but I hope y'all been good, bro. I hope y'all been straight. I hope y'all been keeping God first, man. Let's get into this video.
What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and the origin of Absolute Poison Ivy is incredible. And it's kind of nightmare fuel, but kind of not at the same time. You guys will see what I'm talking about because you guys are going to love this. So what this does is this opens up with Pamela Isley herself, and she says, on my 10th birthday, my mother surprises me with a trip into Gotham City. We live way out in Kane County, deep in the woods, just the two of us, and I'm not used to wearing shoes. We visit the Hart Building. We go to the very top. The height is dizzying, but my mother grips my hand tight. And so Pamela asks, do they call it the Hart Building because it's shaped like a heart? But her mother responds and says, no, Ivy Girl, which is a nickname that her mother gave her because she loves climbing trees in the hollow behind their cabin. And she says, it's called that because it was built at the heart of the city, where the crosswinds intersect, carrying currents to all 5 boroughs. The legend is, more than anywhere else in the city, that this spot gives a wish the best chance of taking root somewhere out there and growing strong. And so she says, my mother plucks a dandelion for me. She is already sick, but I don't know this yet. And so her mother says, make a wish from the heart. And so at that point, we jump to the here and now with this security guard making his way through the basement of a building. And this guy, he gets the worst of it because what ends up happening is he just kind of calls out, right? Hello, right? Is anybody there? This is private property. You need to leave. But as he makes his way through here, suddenly he starts walking on like plant matter. And then he sees these kind of eggs sitting out there with almost humanoid beings growing on the inside. And he...
Mind y'all, I already seen this. I was like, it's been like a month or two before, after, but I already seen a little bit of it, so I kind of remember a little bit. I'm just late to the party.
Freaking out, right? But that's when Poison Ivy shows up behind him and just says, welcome, officer, to my wish, and then kills him on the spot. And so at that point, we switch over to what's happening in the larger Gotham City, which is to say, in the middle of the whole city, this heart-shaped building, you have all these plants, basically trees, growing in the midst of it all. Now, it is important to specify, this is the first time this happening. This is not really something that's brand new. And so that's where the cops are circling around. And one of them just says, like, what in God's name are we looking at, Sarge, right? And the sergeant says, damn if I know, Lieutenant. And he says, heads up, Mayor Hill just issued a full biohazard warning for this place, a 5-block radius. Our job is to now watch out for anyone trying to get in. And that's where the lieutenant's just kind of like, I mean, what kind of psycho would want to go into this place? But that's where we find out that Absolute Batman would. Not only that, he's going into this place with chainsaws on his arms.
He's that little raw boy,
which is amazing.
Yeah,
because
I remember
every
this.
time I open an Absolute Batman comic, somehow he's more dope in the new comic than he was in the old one. It just keeps getting better and better. It's crazy. But once he's in here, right, cutting through all this plant matter and these trees with these chainsaws, he just tells Alfred Pennyworth, I am in. Talk. And so Alfred tells him, Gotham City Police Department intel indicates the air is highly contaminated with an unknown biological agent. 7 of Bullock's best went in ahead of you, and apparently they humped in an augied up MUC. And so Bruce is just kind of like, okay, I don't know what any of that means. Give me English, man. And so Alfred says, I'm sorry, right? An augmented mobile ultrasonic cannon, an extremely powerful military-grade weapon that uses compressed sound waves to separate cells. Whatever is in there, be careful. And so that's where Bruce looks around and then spots these cops who are just standing out there in all this grass. Now, you can tell right off the bat, this is sus at best. And
bro, I would have given if I was an Army Ranger. I'm not going in there, bro. There's no human being on this earth that can go against supernatural. Unless God is with you and God telling you what to do. But other than that, bro, I'm an Army Ranger. I'm not doing that, bro. No.
To go sideways super fast because Bruce says, I have eyes on the officers, and that's where Alfred tells him that's not possible. Maybe that stuff in the air is screwing with you. But Bruce says, I am looking right at them. But then Alfred fires back and says, I'm looking right at the police scans. There are no human signatures on your floor or any floor near it. And that's where one of these cops turns around, looks at Bruce, and then immediately transforms into the most horrifying creature I have ever seen. And Alfred just tells him, whatever you're looking at, they are not people, not anymore. And so at that point, you jump to a week before. Now, this is cool because one of the things that Scott Snyder's been doing over the course of Absolute Batman since the end of the Bane storyline is revisiting a lot of these plot threads, specifically with Bruce Wayne's friends, who had essentially been tormented, tortured, and just grotesquely mutilated by Bane himself. And so Bruce says, Batman Combat Journal, I find something today. I am in the sewer looking for him again, and suddenly there it is in the water. The sight makes my stomach turn. Reptiles shed when they're getting bigger, not smaller. I force out the thoughts. The arrowhead is working. Waylon is getting better. That's what I choose to believe. Now, for those of you guys who don't know what I'm referring to, we actually covered that in Absolute Batman issue number...
Absolute Killer Croc finna be insane, bro. I'm so ready to see Scarecrow. I know there's a lot of stuff that I'm in for, bro. I know.
Bruce Wayne had worked alongside Wonder Woman to basically attain an artifact, in this instance an arrowhead, that could be used on Waylon Jones, that could turn him back into his human form. And that was the belief, right? It didn't really seem to be permanent. It was just something that could temporarily make him human. But that doesn't seem to be the case. If he is being transformed by the arrowhead, it seems to be for the worse, not for the better. And so that's why he says, I also choose to believe that he is still my friend, that they all are. And so what ends up happening is you have Bruce, who travels to the Iceberg Lounge, which is traditionally the base of operations for Oswald Cobblepot, right, for the Penguin. And the henchmen here, they tell Bruce, if you set foot on this block one more time, we have orders from Mr. Cobblepot to beat the crap out of you. And so that's where Bruce says, then you tell Ozzy I'll be back tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. But Oswald does not want to see him. No one does, because he goes to visit Edward Nygma, right? And Bruce runs off a riddle. He says, I will never be king. They call me Jack. My queen I met in the field out back. A prince is born from our unmatched pair, but my line ends with my heir. What am I, Eddie? And Eddie doesn't answer. Now, it is kind of cool that Bruce is using riddles on Eddie as opposed to the other way around. Not to say that Eddie hasn't. In fact, he did it when Bruce first found out that he was so twisted. But still, it's an interesting turn of events that we're getting in this comic. And so following that, you pick up with Bruce going to see Dr. Leslie Tompkins, who again is historically the person that operates behind the scenes, helping Bruce out with his injuries or something like that, if Alfred's not there to tend to him in the main DC universe. And so she tells him, right, I'm sorry, but I do not have an answer for you, Bruce, truly. And so he says, but his condition, Dr. Tompkins, I thought to heal, his skull needed to be repaired. But that's where Tompkins says another month at least. But right now, Harvey's head is literally split into two halves, barely connected. When the nurses came in this morning, though, he was just gone. So seemingly, they've all kind of fanned out and done their own thing, and they're likely going to become villains in some capacity. We don't completely know. And so at that point, Bruce continues on with this letter to himself, right? He says, anchor yourself, feel the pavement through your souls. Nothing has changed, at least nothing that matters, but everything feels different. Even Batman, right? Ever since Bane, they love him. He is theirs now too, in a way that I didn't mean to happen. He was never supposed to be the story, just the means, but he's everywhere now. And sometimes I see that bat and I barely know what it is that I am looking at. Now, that's the crazy thing. And it's one of the things that Alfred warned him about. Batman will become bigger than you, and you have to be prepared for that. In times of desperation, people will pick things to rally around, if for no other reason than to give them hope. And that's what they've done here with Batman. They've rallied around a man who defeated this kind of insurmountable monster, right? This physical representation of forces out there that they cannot comprehend and could never even imagine defeating. So if Batman can beat them, so can they, right? Hope springs eternal. And so in that moment, you jump back to Bruce facing off against these guys, right? Transformed into
Batman.
all kinds of just horrific creatures. And so that's where Alfred chimes in the midst of this fight, and he tells Bruce, these things, from the data that I'm seeing, they're a blend of human and plant DNA. The spores in the air must be some kind of recombinant mutagen, right? Literally rewriting their DNA. And he says, whatever you do, keep that mask on, which of course, Bruce takes it off.
That's insane.
But I guess when you have your face in the mouth of a giant plant monster, inevitably that's going to happen. And literally Alfred tells him, like, I just told you, keep your mask on. But Bruce just says, I know. And where Alfred keeps chastising him, Bruce keeps getting more and more pissed off. But the dude's fighting for his life and being kind of reckless. But that's where Bruce tells Alfred, right, the cape, it's dense fiber, it'll work as a barrier. But those things, they were not just human and plant hybrids. There was more to them than that. And that's where Alfred tells him, you can tell me about it back at the bunker because we are aborting this mission right now. But Bruce just says no, right? He says, shut up and listen. I saw something like them once before when I was in that place. Arc-M, when they were experimenting on people and turning them into grotesque things. And he says, I need you to look something up for me, Pennyworth, a name. This name is Isley. And so at that point, you jump back to Pamela's origin yet again. And she says, I am 23 the next time I come to Gotham. My wish has taken hold, at least in a small way. I have a lab, I have funding. My research focuses on genetic cytological engineering, injecting human stem cells with plant DNA. I work all day and night, often sleeping in the lab. I have some early success too. I engineer a human cell containing chloroplast, a photosynthetic human cell that can use the sun to heal, regenerate. I tour and I publish. More funding comes in, but it's not enough. Nothing is enough. My mother's sickness is back, and it has been for a while. A knot of cells in her brain growing out of control. Her own body making too much of itself. So essentially, brain cancer. And so that's where she says, at night, I look out at the city and I wonder if my mother's sickness is part of some bigger pathology happening to us all. Alone, isolated, separated by walls, real and technological and imagined. We turn inward, lose touch. Malignancies grow from our own selves. But if we could reconnect, if we could rejoin, from the heart, Ivy Girl, I hear my mother say, and then it hits me. What does Ivy do? It climbs. And so maybe there is a version of me somewhere that stops at plants, but not this one and not here. I will combine our cells with more, not just plants. I will pull from all 6 kingdoms of life. I will climb higher, higher than anyone thinks possible. And so in that moment, you jump back to Bruce and the diary he had when he was going back and visiting people. And he continues to tell himself, right? Stay grounded, Bruce. Stick to routine. The first Saturday of the month at 9 a.m., you visit him. He might never talk, might never really explain why he did it, but still, you sit and you wait. And that's where a cop walks up and just says, I'm sorry, Bruce, he's not coming. And Bruce just starts to freak out. I mean, he literally gets viscerally angry here, right? Like, what do you mean? He has to come. And the cop tells him, like, I'm afraid it's up to him. And he said he just doesn't want to meet anymore, ever, right? And so Bruce starts freaking out, right? You can't do that, and starts screaming through the door, only for us to find out he's talking to Joe Chill, the guy who shot up the zoo at the very beginning of the story when we got Bruce's origin, leading to the death of his father. And he says, this is what we do. I come and talk to you. And presumably, Joe Chill just sits there while Bruce Wayne screams at him and tries to get answers that are never going to come. And so it's tragic It's incredibly sad that Bruce does this to himself. And so at that point, you jump back to the present when he's dealing with all these monsters that are quite literally turning into these various beasts. Like, they are not human by any standard of measurement. They keep coming at him over and over and over again. And that's where Alfred tells him, kid, I am detecting something on that floor, something human. And so Bruce is like, yeah, well, I'm not. And Alfred says, the signal is weak, but it's there. All I'm saying is, keep your eyes open. And he's actually being attacked by what is technically, as I understand it, a biblically accurate version of an angel. If my knowledge is correct, angels don't actually appear the way you imagine them, right? People with robes.
Bro, look how that look. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy, dog. That's why God say, fear not. Woo, boy. Biblically accurate, huh? That's crazy, dog. Damn, boy.
Halos and so on and so forth. They look wild. Like, they look absolutely nuts. But the fact is, right, Alfred comes back in and says, and you were on to something before. Pamela Isley, MD, and a whole bunch of other titles. A whole bloody alphabet. A smart one she was. And that's where Bruce is like, was, right? And Alfred says she died, age 25, and I'm looking at her obituary right now, written by her mother. You've climbed farther than we can follow, to a land of better angels. Hence the reason why so many of these monsters look like angels in the first place. And so where Bruce is continuing to climb up this tree, trying to get to the top, he ends up coming across Jim Gordon's daughter, right? He ends up coming across Barbara. And she kind of explains here a little bit that her and her guys were separated. And she says the brass didn't tell us anything, right? They just sent us in with this augmented MUC. And then she's kind of like, you don't know what I'm talking about, do you? And Bruce is like, yes, I do. And so he takes like the flamethrower out of her hands. And she kind of tries to take control for a brief moment, right? She says, look, I was sent here to stop whatever's happening up here. Me, right? You can join me, but as my partner, because this time we're a team. And Bruce is like, actually, we're not. And like knocks her off the tree, right? Sends her flying down. And so in turn, Bruce continues climbing. And so that's where Alfred hits him up yet again, right? Are you okay in there? The readings, it looks like the higher you go, the denser the spores become, and the more likely you are to be infected. But when Bruce looks down at the ground, right, where the tree is, he sees the face of Pamela Isley looking back at him. Now, he doesn't know it's her. We know it's her, but it's crazy nonetheless, because he ends up telling Alfred, right, I am going up. Do not get in my way. And just keeps climbing higher and higher. Bro. And so at that point, you switch back to Pamela, right? And she says, they're trying to stop me, but I will not let them. I am too close now. The breakthroughs these past few weeks, human cells remade with new DNA. First with plant, then animalia, fungi, protista, urobacteria, and archaebacteria, human cells reconnected to nature, to a common base, cells that can use the best of all life to mend, a cure for so much. I think of my mother, full of tubes, yellowing on a pillow that crunches like dead leaves. My sponsors, though, all they want to do is divide up each discovery, individuate, separate old men who can only think of what my work can do for them. And so she just says, fine, I will take my research somewhere else then. I will do it tonight. And she just says, I'm coming for you, mother. I promise. And so at that point, we deviate away from both Pamela and Bruce Wayne, and we switch over to Commissioner Gordon. But we do get this kind of journal entry from Bruce where he says, that night I go to this one place that still makes sense. In the doorway, I take a moment to breathe it in, the smell of old wood, old books, and then I hear her voice, his mother having a conversation with Jim Gordon. Now, they've kind of had a budding romance going on for quite some time. So if you're seeing this and you're kind of like, when did this happen? It's been a thing for a little while in the Absolute Universe. Not to say she was cheating on Bruce's dad, it's just she's beginning to kind of move on following the death of Bruce's dad, like, I don't know, 20 some odd years beforehand. But she says, I'm just worried about him, right? I see him trying so hard with his friends, trying to put on a brave face with me. And Jim just says, he's a strong kid, Martha, stronger than either of us. But she's his mom, And moms have a way of knowing what their kids are thinking. Specifically, when you're talking about the relationship between a mother and a son. Every mother knows her son, and she knows when her son is lying, she knows when her son's telling the truth, and she knows when he's hiding things. And that's why she says, that's the thing, Jim. I keep thinking about what you asked me, right? With everything going on in Gotham, what do I want to do? Me. She still cares about and loves her son, but it is the lingering question that's been sitting there the entire time. And she says, I know now, but I'm scared, Jim. And Jim asks why, and she says, because to do it, there are things about me that you don't know, things no one does, things that if they ever came out would change everything. And Jim just tells her, not everything, right?
He horny, bro. Talking about something, not everything. His ass horny. Look at him, ready to go kiss. He ready to put some pipe in it. Not everything. Give me some sex.
Change the way that I feel about you. And so when they lean in for a kiss, Bruce, in seeing this, just walks away. And that's where Jim Gordon sticks his head out the door and is just kind of like, crap, right? Because the whole relationship between Jim and Martha was largely kept hidden. And so what you end up doing is jumping through these particular moments into a character that a lot of you guys have noticed, but who for the first time we're actually seeing any meaningful interaction with. The first one is Absolute Joker, right? Returning to Gotham. And the statement's made, here's to the return of Gotham's prodigal son, Jack Grimm. And that's all we really get out of him, right? There's the whole conversation that takes place with Harley Quinn, where she's talking to her Red Hood gang, right? And they say, we don't partner with people, Harley. And she says, yeah, well, I say new year, new rules. We teamed up with him before, we will partner with him again. And then you switch over to Dick Grayson, where he says, it's like the whole city has gone crazy, all because of him. And the statement's made, even if you really believe that, what do you propose to do about it, Dick? Right, so that's kind of the crazy thing, is because now
that boy did, man. Hey, look, man. Like that boy did frustrated did, you feel me?
Get reference to Dick outside of a name tag on his chest, right, when he's working as a paramedic or something along those lines. And so that's where Bruce chimes back in and says, is it him changing things? Is he behind it? Or is it me? Did Batman do all of this? What's the real source, right? Now, it is a little ambiguous here, because in a lot of ways, Bruce almost kind of refers to Batman as an entity outside of himself, right? Referring to Batman as him, that people love him. But he could also be referring to the Joker, right? Kind of having a hand in all these things and manipulating everything behind the scenes. But either way, no matter how you slice it, it's Bruce Wayne realizing Gotham is changing drastically and is changing faster than he can keep up with in some ways. And so once we switch back to the here and now, and Bruce gets to the top of the tree, he just calls for Alfred, right? But there really isn't a whole lot of reception going in there because the spores are so incredibly dense and so strong, they're actually blocking out any real communication that can take place here. And so Bruce just says, I'm here, I made it, I am at the top. And that's where Poison Ivy just says, yes,
that's
you
insane.
are.
That's
and she
crazy.
says, it's beautiful, isn't it? And that's where Bruce looks at her, and it's just like, Dr. Isley, right? And she says, I used to be a lifetime ago. And so Alfred chimes in, right? Kid, can you hear me?
Bro, that's insane, bro. Look at Poison Ivy. Damn, see, I ain't get to this part. That's crazy. Bro, Absolute Batman is turning out to be some shit, boy.
Human up there. She is not Isley, not anymore. Wait until she gets closer and then use the MUC. Do you hear me, right? She is not human. And so that's where you kind of go back and forth in these particular moments. When you have Pamela Isley talking about her story, Bruce talking about his own experience, right? Pamela Isley says, I'm almost to the door when I hear the bolt lock into place. And here in the moment, she seizes Bruce Wayne and bends him to her will, right? Nothing here is going to take you, but I will be taking that weapon. And she says, don't be afraid, Batman. I know how frightening change can be, but it is time to let go, right? Bruce Wayne having his entry where he says, head down, eyes forward, hold it together. And so in this moment, Bruce literally fires up the flamethrower and torches Pamela Isley, right?
That's
Seemingly
insane.
kills her on the spot. And that's where you jump back to this bit of an origin where she says, suddenly the fire is everywhere. I remember feeling so terrified, but more than that, so angry. Angry because I thought that was the end. And so where she's basically torched, Bruce chimes into Alfred and he says, Pennyworth, is she down? What are you seeing? And Pamela in this kind of flashback says, but it wasn't. It was just the beginning, because new versions of Poison Ivy start popping up from the plant matter. And Alfred tells him, kid, I am seeing something, and it's something big. It's up here with you. It's part human, part plant, but it's more than that. It's part everything. And that's where Bruce just says, all I see is more of her. And so Pamela tells him, time to let go, Batman. And another one tells him, let go. They keep repeating the same thing. And so that's where Bruce just says, you know, none of you are even real. None of you are real at all. And this voice comes from behind him and says, no, they're not. But I am. And
oh, shit. Oh, shit. Oh. She look crazy, bro. She look crazy. Poison Ivy look crazy. She kind of scary looking, bro. Oh, hell no, bro. Hell no, bro.
It's the real Poison Ivy, and she looks wild. It's absolutely bonkers, right?
Damn.
One of the craziest things I've ever seen. And I gotta be honest with you guys, I adore this design. I love this design of Poison Ivy. And so Bruce is just level. He's like, what is this? And Poison Ivy just says, welcome, Batman, to your wish, and just mutates and goes on the attack. Now, here's the crazy thing, because we do get an epilogue here. You switch over to Martha, and she's making this phone call where she says, I didn't know if you would answer, especially after all this time. It's me. I wasn't followed. Are you still there? And that's where this person is looking at the phone and just says, we're always
Is that
here,
the Court of
Martha.
Owls? Oh, hell no. Hell no. The Court of Owls, cuz. What she got going on, man?
We knew one day you would come back to the Court of Owls. And if you don't know what the Court of Owls is, if you have no clue how significant they are, let me know down in the comment section. We can remaster New 52 Batman. A lot of you guys are new to DC Comics
This
anyway.
crazy.
We can honestly go back and remaster the New 52, and we can remaster DC Rebirth. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I will catch you all later. Peace.
All right, man. That's the end of that video, bro. Y'all boys like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you like or what you didn't like with your eyes, man. Comment down below, bro. I'll see y'all boys in the next one, man. This is getting crazy, bro. We finna hop right into it, bro.